Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I have just seen the Netflix original film Bright, starring Joel Edgerton as Ork Jesus and Will Smith as Human Jesus. Yeah, okay. How do we explain this film? Imagine if all the things from like World of Warcraft or all the things from Norwegian folklore are sort of real. They're not really real, like fairies aren't intelligent beings, they're nuisance creatures that happen to be humanoid, and about as intelligent as, say, a monkey, I guess, a spider monkey. But there are centaurs and orcs, elves, and dwarves living along with humans in an alternate history where 2,000 years ago, instead of the crucifixion and Rome and train, there was a war against the Dark Lord. So I guess the Antichrist has come in this world, but it's our world in that you recognize Los Angeles, and there's brands like Ford and Mercedes. This is a problem, and people have mentioned this before, that this film fails to understand the butterfly effect. You wouldn't have brands like Mercedes and Ford because you would have different people coming up with different ideas, and generally, elves in this world are supposedly the Europeans. Okay? Most rich people are Jewish or European. Jews are technically Middle Eastern, but it's complicated. Okay? Been out of the Middle East for a long time. So the European evil rich people have been replaced with elvish evil rich people. So this would probably make Henry Ford an elf, which would mean his name would be Azarak or something instead of Henry Ford. So this is one of the biggest problems with this universe, is you're going, but wait a minute, wouldn't that happen? And then another reviewer mentioned there's a reference to the movie Shrek, and it's like, obviously Shrek would be a very different movie, given the fact that this is a world where orcs exist, and Orcish is a language, and Shrek, I don't think, is a word in Orcish. So, yeah, Shrek would be like our world's equivalent of the Native American Tonto from the Lone Ranger, who, I don't think Tonto is actually a Native American word. So there's that as a problem, but let's just take that and wrap it up in a ball and put it to the side for a moment. What's going on in this? In this version of Los Angeles, it looks like it's sometime back in the 80s, okay, given the 90s, because they have cell phones, but their cell phones don't appear to be as advanced as ours. And it's back in the 90s, and there's the first Orcish officer as a member of LAPD. And not only is he the first Orcish officer, he appears to be a very intelligent Orcish officer, and he is partnered with the human officer played by Will Smith. So they don't like each other, despite the fact that Will Smith is constantly telling people how orcs are people too, and how you should give them the same level of respect you give everyone else. He says that, but he doesn't practice it. Now, I'm assuming that this comes from a real-life dynamic of you've got people who will go out there and say, hey, look, doesn't matter what race you are, you're a person, and then they're perceived to do this. Some of them will flat out, like, they say that to not get in trouble, but they're flat out liars. Some of them, like, in practice, they're just not that great of people. So I feel this dynamic. So these two people are together. Will Smith's character feels that he was let down. He got shot while on duty. He's fine, but he was hit with a shotgun in the breastplate of his armor, which should have pretty much ended his street career. And I think even in modern LAPD that would. So he's holding a grudge against this Orcish officer. And this Orkish officer, the only Orkish officer in a field where there are indeed centaurs and there are other people, he's going out there, and there's this friction between them. So they go and respond to a call, and there is a magic wand. Right, and the reason this is all over the place. The reason this is called Bright is because a Bright is a person who can wield a magic wand. They can pick up, if you're not a Bright, you pick up a magic wand, you die. So, if you are a Bright, you can pick up a magic wand. Okay, so, and they get an elf girl here. And then hilarity ensues. No. And then they go through, basically, They go through a bunch of trials. They're fought and beat up and trying to protect the one, trying to protect the girl. But again, this is an entertaining film. I did not want to shut it off when I finished it. I enjoyed watching it. It's just that after I watched it, I start going, hey, wait a minute. Like, for example, in almost all fiction, orcs, elves, and humans can all interbreed. Like, I'm pretty sure a human can breed with an orc and an elf, but an elf may not be able to breed with an orc. So there's that dynamic. So why aren't there any half-elves in this story, which there would be a lot of, and why aren't there any half-orcs in this story, which there would be a lot of? So this is another lacking dynamic. And then, as I say, the centaurs appear to be slightly built horses. They're kind of small for horses, but they're tall because they're a human torso where a horse's neck should be. But I mean, let's just be realistic here. Would a centaur, because there aren't a lot of them, would they be in the police force as they're depicted? Or, would they be doing they might be a street vendor because they can carry a lot. They might work in manual labor because they can do that. Or they would most realistically be in porn because they're centaurs and they're literally hung like a horse. This would be brought up by Will Smith's character at some point. Now, again, Joel Edgerton I'm not very familiar with. I think he's a very competent actor. I enjoyed him in this role. Will Smith is a world-class actor. This is a step down for him acting-wise from films like Concussion, if you enjoyed that. But he's the same, shoot-'em-up hero that he is in other films. So it's no new territory for him. But look, here is the thing about the film Bright. It is a beer movie. You drink some beer, you watch this movie. It doesn't have enough boobs in it for your wife to slap you because you're paying too much attention to the screen. And you enjoy it. The more you think about this movie, the less you're going to like it. So just don't think about it. It is a watch film if you enjoy World of Warcraft, if you were a big Lord of the Rings fan but wanted something more adult. It's fine. It's not a great movie. It's just not a bad movie. It's very middle of the road for me. Anyway, I will probably be watching the sequel when it comes out, because I know it's been greenlit. But I would not go to see it in theaters, because it just doesn't appeal that much to me. Anyway, that's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours down in the comments below. I am Richard Leland Neal.